Hey gang, this is sort of an unusual late night episode. This is kind of a co-production that was done between myself and Len Kabaczynski. He's releasing it over on his channel, I think in 2 parts as Fist of the Filmmaker episodes. But I decided to go ahead and combine it and make it a late night episode, just one long one, because the conversation kind of naturally flowed anyway. There really wasn't a big shift in what we were talking about. So I was actually in Las Vegas with Len Kabaczynski in person in the first week of June, just for the end of first week of June, I think. And I went down there because he was filming and recording some episodes with the Salty Nerd podcast and invited me very, very generously to come down and do some work with him and with them. And they were very kindly willing to extend their amazing studio, which is the Las Vegas Podcaster Studio, and allow us to actually record and handle all the recording, do everything for us. So right off the top, I have to say a huge thank you to Matt Kadish of the Salty Nerd Podcast for handling all the engineering, allowing me to sit in their studio to use their equipment and all that stuff, which they absolutely did not have to do, so I am very appreciative of that. And of course to Len for even inviting me. He did not have to include me, but it was a legitimately fantastic time. So basically this is kind of a 2-part show. There's about a 35 to 40 minute segment where we're talking about Len's upcoming film Demoniac. And the same people are present on both sides of the show, on both halves of the show, I should say. So it's the same people the whole time, but the content and what we're talking about shifts a bit. So in that first part, it's mostly focused on Demoniac. And Len Kabaczynski, of course, director and podcaster and good friend of mine, is there, as well as Aaron Doherty, who is his production designer for Demoniac, and Matt Kadish, as I previously mentioned, of the Salty Nerd Podcast, along with myself. It's basically the 4 of us, and we're talking about what production design is, some of the work that's going into Demoniac, and some of Len's films in general. Then we're going to shift into talking about the recent deletion of Len's YouTube channel, where essentially Google, with very little to no warning, just deleted all of his content and destroyed his channel, which did result in him losing some of his videos that are on there, including some of the ones that I've done with him, which is a real bummer. But that's, again, same people in that back half, but we're going to talk about that at length, because if you've listened for a while, you know I will have some thoughts about Google and YouTube. So anyway, that's what it is, but I didn't want to break them up into 2 separate late nights. I figured one episode was fine. You'll notice there's a slight shift. I'll probably put like elevator music or something in there just to transition between them. But essentially this is... I mean, we recorded them back to back, so this isn't even something on separate days. We did these within a very short time span of each other. So to me, it just made sense to add it all the way in. So it was a great time. I hope you enjoy it. And now I will shut up because I've been talking for like 3 minutes. On with the show. Here we go. Okay, I am in the Salty Nerd Podcast studio. That's correct, right, Matt?
That is correct, although professionally we're known as the Las Vegas Podcaster Studio.
I'm in the Las Vegas Podcaster Studios here in wonderful Las Vegas, Nevada, on a very warm day. Anyway, I'm here to talk to Len Kabaczynski and his production designer, who Len is going to give me the full name of right now.
Aaron Doherty.
And we are joined by Matt, last name?
Kadish,
who is one of the hosts here on the Salty Nerd Podcast. And we're doing a impromptu kind of, I don't know what we're even going to call it. We can call it an Ozone Late Night. We can call it a Fist of the Filmmaker. We can call it anything. Who really cares? But basically, I'm here in Las Vegas, a rare event where Len and I are in proximity. We're in the same place as we were for like 15 minutes in Burbank, California, a while ago. Was that last year? When was that?
Probably, well, it was Pact of Vengeance time. So, you know.
Because you were doing filming with Leo for the sniper
of 21.
Damn it, was it 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little over a year. Wow, man. I have no sense of time anymore. Pandemic destroyed that. So anyway, we're gonna talk about Demoniac because Aaron.
Yes.
Oh my God, I'm doing all right. Erin is the production designer. So Erin, let's start off with explaining to morons what a production designer is and does on a movie, because I don't know.
Well, I'm learning myself. Basically, everything that you see, you read a screenplay, you look at a script, it's going to just be giving direction to actors or telling a story. So all of the visuals are not really included in that. So a production designer would read through the script, block everything out, figure out exactly what the aesthetic is going to be, how everything's going to look, everything from big scale sets, set design. So you may have to actually physically design a space, a building, things like that, and then hand all of the actual technical details over to people who would build it.
So you're like a visual design man, or not visual design's the wrong word for it, but you handle the visual side and kind of manage everybody underneath there.
Yeah, that's right. Manage an art director.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a thing called mise en scène.
I've heard the phrase, but I only speak bad New York.
Production designers are in charge of the mise en scène.
Oh, yeah, that's cinema stuff.
I think it's important to say, like, for example, Eileen gets a script from me or a scene from me. And talk about designing like a mood board. What goes into that? I know you've been doing several mood boards now. We're into the second act of me and Eileen Hebert there. I hope I said your last name there right, Eileen. I basically, or we write a scene, kick it to Erin, and Erin makes a mood board of it. Talk about what
what is a mood board? I've heard the phrase. I don't know what that means. I don't know what anything means. I don't know anything.
So a mood board is just a visual, like I just only use images. So you might have everything broken out into just like literal pictures. So a mood board it's similar to something you might see like in a collage in somebody's bedroom or something, like a dream board of things I like.
Let's see if I've got it. So let's say the scene is saying highway overpass night. You go out and Google search for highway pass overnight, put the picture on there and say, okay, this is in general what we're looking for. And then you dial in at some point.
All of the details.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So with Demoniac, I've just been kind of laying out every image that kind of matches exactly with the script, how I want it to look. And then over time, you get this beautiful transitional look of, say a scene goes from really gray, and then as the mood of the scene changes, it progressively gets more and more red or something. So when you're looking at a mood board, you can just really quickly, anybody looking at it can quickly understand the tone of the film, the basic idea of where everything's going, and then as you get further in production, you dig into all of the details of, okay, what exact, liquor bottle are we going to use for this scene? How is it going to, where are we going to get it from? How is it going to be important?
Right, the color.
How do you refill it after everybody drinks it in 15 minutes?
Well, that'd probably be me.
Yeah.
But I think that's another thing, and Erin can expand on this, but a lot of times it's also setting colors and lighting schemes already. When I did a film like Swamp Zombies 2, I was already designing some of the lighting schemes and patterns and stuff. And me and the writer of that film wanted to make it look like a comic book, like an old EC comic or whatever. So I thought, okay, we got to use these rich, popping colors and stuff like that. Maybe something like Demoniac is something more low key, where we want the hazy, smoky, not in your face, bright color schemes and stuff. And in the mood boards, I think bring that kind of thing out. But talk about.
Okay, so is a mood board kind of an enhanced storyboard? Is that the way to think of it? Because I know I'm familiar with storyboards. Like I can think visually that way.
Mm-hmm.
So is it something where you would actually have those images above a storyboard image to kind of point out things?
Yeah, you could do that. Really, it's pretty open, and I've been doing mood boards for in other professions for a while now. So it's definitely how I work. It's how I can visualize. That's how I'm very visually driven anyway. So almost everything I do, I like to make a mood board for it.
Okay, because I was going to say, I've seen HGTV crap where they talk about mood boards. I mean, I don't watch HGTV, but it's on Dentist's Office, so I can't avoid it. But, when they say, oh, I'm making a mood board, I'm like, wait a minute. So they're talking about a similar type of process. This is the same type of approach for anything.
Sure, yeah.
Okay,
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, there's actually a practice in filmmaking called a visual manual. And a lot of directors, what they'll do is they'll take images that they find either online or in magazines or whatever, and they'll put them in a manual. And basically the whole idea behind a vision board and the visual manual and stuff like that is to communicate to other people what the director is seeing in his head as to like the look and feel of the film. Like LA Confidential, famously, the director of that movie, I forget his name right now, but he created a visual manual that was so detailed that in his pitch to the studio, he just put the manual on the table and the executives passed it around. And he was like, this is what the movie's going to look like. And they were all like, you got your budget.
Mm-hmm.
So like that, it's basically a way to get everyone on the same page in terms of like how they're thinking about what the movie's going to look like.
Right.
Yeah, we had done that on Pact of Vengeance. Me and the editor and director of photography, who were the same person, Steven Steinbacher there. We had discussed beforehand, what do we want Pact to look like? So instead of a storyboard where we're taking images out of magazines and stuff like that, we actually went to other films. And I said, well, you know what? The look of this kind of picture, I would like to be like Scott's film Domino, from whatever it was, almost 20 years ago, probably now, or something like that. And forget about how good or bad, the film is itself. It's the look of the picture, and that saturation or desaturation at times is what I wanted Pact of Vengeance to look like. And I think Steven did a really good job with that. I think the look of the picture and things like that is what we wanted it, to be.
Mm-hmm. So in the case for Demoniac, when did the mood board process start? Was that during script writing, or was it, because I don't know how with the script, if you've been doing it in parts or if you kind of had a fleshed out vision of it, or how it went with that? Yeah,
with that, what it was is me and Eileen pretty much from the beginning had decided we would like co-write this. And how that kind of works is I kind of write almost an outline. Like I'll write the scenes, the dialogue, everything like that. And then I pitch it off to her, and then she polishes it and everything like that. She's a much better writer than I am. She's got a degree in creative writing from Central Florida. That's the same university that Miami Connection was filmed at, people. So I just learned that last night. So what it was is I would pitch off stuff to her. She would polish it, give it back to me, and then we'd go forward. And I think we had gotten through pretty much just about the first act. It's into the second act now where we're at in writing it. So as things build and things like that. But once the first act was done, Aaron had contacted me and I said, oh, well, here, you can read this and see what you think about it, kind of thing. And then, the mood boards and things started to develop from there. And, when you first get into film, there's that initial rush of excitement and things like that from people that haven't, maybe done a lot of film and things like that. It's not my first rodeo with things. So when I see new people excited, it kind of brings back, oh, this is why I do this kind of thing too, because I like
remember before Hope died. And
I've been around a little while now, and it's like, yeah, when I see that excitement come in from other people and stuff, it reminds me that, hey, they're not here out of the blue. They're here because they saw my stuff somewhere and contacted me. So, And in my career, I really thought at Pact of Vengeance, if it was over, I'm okay with that probably. Leo's gone, stuff like that. If I went out with that film being my final film, I'm still okay with it. But I think Demoniac will happen. I can see and hear excitement growing about, getting this thing done. It would be a very micro budget style picture, which I think is very, very doable. We wouldn't have to have a, $75,000 budget or something like that.
And explain for anybody who may not know Demoniac, the basic synopsis of it, the approach, that type of thing.
Oh, yeah. Demoniac's about after Pact of Vengeance, which is a massive scale film for somebody like me and $38,000 to get it done kind of thing. After Pact of Vengeance, I thought, if I go on to do something else, I want to go back in terms of scale, not quality or not production value, but scale. I want to go back, which means I don't want to have a crew of 80 people or something like that. I'm going to write a contained story where I can have an initial main cast or main and a little bit of supporting that wouldn't be more than a dozen people or something like that. Nothing that's going to need a crazy amount of extras and that kind of involvement and things like that. So keeping the production pretty contained and then focus on the quality of it. But what Demoniac is about is it's set in the world of stage theater, which if anybody knows me, they know that's where I began. I'm a communications and theater kind of split major. I've been involved in stage theater, many, many productions over the last 30 years kind of thing. But it's set in the world of stage theater where we have a struggling writer and artist and director of the theater that's kind of struggling to kind of get creatively going, and they're trying to get back this theater community and get a new play that's going to be exciting and stuff. Well, she ends up discovering this script that was a long lost script of this theater after an accident, I don't want to get too much into it, but there's an accident in a theater. People die many, many years ago. This script then presents itself to this main character here, this struggling director, and she kind of makes the deal with the devil, if you will, that, hey, you know what? I might be able to get this play done for you. Who knows what it'll do for your career, but you just sign on the dotted line and well, I can make this happen for you, but what will you make happen for me kind of thing? And it goes from there. So it's not an A24 style film because that's not what I do, but it is more of like artsy horror kind of stuff. And I really like the way the script, we've been doing it. It's a slow process, but at the same time, I'm okay with that. Like I said, after Pact of Vengeance, which was a lot just mentally and physically draining for me. I'm injured all through Pact of Vengeance with a pinched nerve that it was just very, very painful every single day of the week. It just wasn't a fun shoot overall. I mean, you have fun moments here and there and stuff like that. And but now I'm 100% healthy and I'm ready to go forward and get this done kind of thing.
Erin, is your background visual arts? Is it film? How did you get into doing this type of stuff?
Well, with film, it's just always been a passion, but nothing that I was pursuing. I went out to work for PopSockets, the phone gadget company.
Wow, those things I hate. That's great. No offense to PopSockets. I can't stand them. But,
no, they're in Terrifier too.
I appreciate that. Yes, they are. They're featured
Hey, look,
heavily
they're great for some
Terrifier
people.
2.
I guess I know how to hold a phone. Not trying to insult people like PopSockets. Use whatever you want to use. Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
I completely understand. So I got the chance to go work out there and build that company's marketing and also design the product. And that was all new for me. So it was a huge opportunity.
Well, you did well because they're everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously you knew what you were doing because, man, I can't go anywhere without seeing them. So good work. You marketed it well.
Thank you. And that was a big chance for me to learn a lot about what I do now for production design. I mean, I was doing a lot of visual mood boards. I was creating all of the campaigns for, say, like an email or the actual visual aesthetic for the company overall. I did a bunch of photo shoots, which was so fun. When in the early days of a big company like that, where you're still kind of scrappy and startup, everyone takes on, a ton of roles. So in the early days, that was the best part, was just having total control over everything, having to be flexible, having to be creative and figure things out on the fly. And being on set of a photo shoot was so fun. It's really fun for me to make, for me to make an experience for everybody that's really enjoyable as well. So then when I left PopSockets and the pandemic happened, basically. And so that whole time I was pretty isolated, but trying to just keep creative. And then coming out of hiding, essentially, I thought, I really, really want to make movies. I'm going to do it. Like, I'm super inspired to do it.
Careful what you wish for.
And I'm happy to have all of that time, too, to
She's
have
not
done
running
nothing.
the whole thing, Len. That's the difference.
I know,
you can do the one part you like and leave the rest to somebody else. Then it's still fun.
That is my curse, but I have to worry about that. They don't. Everybody else is allowed to have fun.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to do my own movies eventually, but exactly. Maybe I'll change my mind.
Smart.
But for right now, working with this script, with the Demoniac script, has been amazing. I mean, I got the first act, and it was so up my alley. It's exactly the kind of movie I want to work on. It's the kind of movie I would make myself. It's like I completely understand the aesthetics of it and the tone and everything. So a big part of what I do in the mood boarding is to kind of get a sense of the whole picture. What is happening here? What are all of the little subtleties and meaning behind everything? So you might have something like...
I was going to say, what's like an example of something in the script where you're like, okay, I have to go find this, if you can think of an example from it.
A good one, I think, would be like alcohol. So say there's a
How does it always come back to alcohol?
Who's an alcoholic.
Interesting.
The main character in the story is like an alcoholic, and we kind of drop that subtly into scenes. And, as we go back and write a second draft or polish things on it and stuff, we want to bring out some of those moments more as to like the why without dragging the story down. One of my concerns with doing a script like this is always don't be boring. Don't be boring. years back, I did, 7 years ago now, something like that. I did a film called Blood Prism, which is not a karate movie for anybody that's seen it. But, I'm always very aware of my pacing of stuff, or at least in the last several years I have been anyways. There is no kicking and punching people in the face or anything like that. Those fight scenes in a film like Blood Prism are the gore scenes, are the nudity that's in it. There's something pacing the film along every 7 to 8 minutes. You want something attention grabbing to happen. And I think Blood Prism does a pretty decent job at that. That's something I would go back, and if I had better equipment and things like that at the time. And I mean, it's in HD, the colors pop, all that kind of stuff, but it was just shot on like a Canon G20, G21, something like that. So, we don't have the interchangeable lenses and things like that. We just go off the fluorite lens on the camera kind of thing. But I think a script like Demoniac, I'm thinking of it the same way, though, I would have thought of Blood Prism, another like non-action picture that I would have done. So not being boring is really, 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 really important to me, because I'm a fan of these kinds of movies, too, that I make. I mean, all I watch is junk that's on Tubi and stuff that, and you of all people know, Joe.
Oh, I know. I love that stuff.
So, my thing is not be boring, but be exciting and be different. And, if people are like, well, Len's not throwing kicks or punches and this kind of thing, well, I got a whole shit ton of movies that do that, that you can watch just about anywhere. Hopefully on my Patreon, people. But you can watch them anywhere kind of thing. But I like when people think I can't do something that I go out and do it kind of thing. So that's where we're at with this one.
So, okay, example, right? Mm-hmm. Alcoholic, you want that to be a background element. There's not dominating. Is that in the script where it says keep this in the background, and then you do things like put a little half empty glass, but it's just sitting out of frame or whatever, so that they get the idea that he's always, or he or she, whatever, is always drinking?
Yeah, so my job would be, okay, the script says that she has a room with alcohol bottles from the night before. Well, what does that look like, and why is that important, and how important is it for the whole picture? So if it's unimportant and it's just sort of a one-off thing that happened in the movie and it's not part of a bigger theme, then it's not as important. You don't have to focus on the artistry.
So
of,
character's
like,
not an alcoholic character, just had a night binge drinking. It's a one-off. That's different. Not as important.
But when it is important, you can start to really build in visually how does this become meaningful to the viewer? So we're talking a lot about light, because light is a really important factor in movies in general. So if you have bottles in the morning, having specific ways that the light is shining off of a glass or reflecting off of the alcohol in the bottle can be really meaningful and can really tie everything together visually over time. You might see that several times repeated throughout the movie. The way the reflection bounces off. And so I also think about things like, you can tell in a movie when somebody has just put water in a bottle and try to make it look like vodka. Vodka coats the inside of a glass. It leaves a different kind of stickiness.
Film or something. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It moves more slowly. Those are the kinds of things that can be really powerful, and I think can really fill things out. So I try to focus on those things, build that into the mood boards visually, so that everybody on set knows, like, this is what's important about this. So we're also talking about things like coffee. Coffee similarly might be some kind of vice, an addiction. And if you have...
I wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, I think that's important, because in a film called Demoniac, there is a lot of demons in the movie, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drug use. That's all in the movie already. Whether it's other stimulants and things like that. There's all kinds of like things. And it's not just, there's personality demons. Then there's like obviously stuff like we mentioned, drug use and things like that in the film. So it's a running theme throughout the picture. And we'll all tie it together as we write it.
Is that something where when you're doing the mood boarding and you're reading the script, and okay, let's say there's a scene, I don't know if there is, I haven't read the script, I don't know. But let's say there's a scene where the character, the demon character, the devil character, whatever, is in the room explaining something, and the person is going to agree to it. And in the script, it says sunlight or light coming through window, but nothing else. Is that something where you would say to Len, hey, maybe we should tint it slightly red to indicate evil? Okay, so that's
absolutely,
there's that kind of back and forth with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we are in the early days of the script. It's not.
See, Matt, I know a little bit about film. This much. I know that much. Sorry, go ahead.
So there's just a lot that I'll probably do now and then revise later. But communicating with both Len and Eileen at the same time is really great. And I think we're definitely like feeding off of each other that way. As I think of things that are important when I read the script and I say, oh, coffee is standing out to me. It's not necessarily that was even intentional on their part. I'm reading into the script and trying to read through and find all of the themes and then match it visually. So those might be built over time because like with the coffee and I think a lot about the steam of coffee and how important that becomes visually and how it relates to the demoniac concept. And so when there's more of a presence of the evilness and, the coffee may be really, really steamy. And when it's not like that and it's more of a depressive scene, then it's ice cold and you can tell and you can just see that it's just not as like alive.
Or character walks in the room and the steam suddenly blows away and there's no more steam because it's so cold and I guess it'd be the opposite. I don't know how steam works. Sorry. But so how important, Len, because I know from the way you like to shoot, you need to, especially because it's micro budget. You don't have $40 million to waste, over a week. Everything has to be dialed in. You have to know what that day, how many hours, all this. So I'm assuming that the mood board has to be pretty tight to the point of, we're not going to vary more than 10% of what's going on here. And that may be because, okay, something's not available, whatever it is. So it has to be almost where you can literally see what's in your head from the script, right? When you get to that point.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing with that obviously is like a storyboard or a mood board or something like that. I mean, you have it ahead of time. You know what I mean? I'm going to know what lights I need, what gels I need. What can I film it in a room that has windows? Do I have to blacken out the windows? What do I have to do, to create the visual stuff that, we want it to look like kind of thing. So knowing that ahead of time, it's just like I go back to Swamp Zombies 2 and Swamp Zombies 2 and Blood Prism, I think are my favorite, like lighting type stuff because they were a lot of fun, both of them. I mean, Angel of Reckoning kind of has some moments like that. But some of them are like they're in a discotheque or whatever at the end of the movie. That's kind of a layup in terms of having cool lighting because a discotheque is going to look awesome no matter how you shoot it usually. But having the mood boards ahead of time really establishes, okay, we're gonna shoot it this way. But also when it comes time to editing, those mood boards would go to the editor as well. We want the coloring to look like this, saturate it like this, do this in post kind of thing, amplify what we shot in camera in post to make it look like these kind of thing. So, it's coming together, and it'll get there. And I'm really fortunate with the people I meet on all my productions to get these things made because they're so hard to do. But you're right. And when you don't have $40 million to work with, I know that, the shooting schedule for a film like this is probably going to be 16 days, 17 days. It might be something where we film Thursday to Sunday and then break for a month, film another Thursday to Sunday, break for a month, and then wrap it up over another weekend or something like that. That's kind of how Hellcat's Revenge 2 got done, and we filmed in an actual prison in that movie, a jail. Pact of Vengeance wasn't that dissimilar either. We filmed in, we had one stretch where we filmed 7 days in a row, but other than that, it was, Thursday to Sunday here, Thursday to Sunday, go film with Leo, and it's over, kind of thing.
Yeah, because you had the hospital set, right, for a set 1 day, 2 days. What was that, 1 day?
Yeah, one day. Yeah, that was amazing. And when I went out to get that hospital set too, it makes me not want to not want to screw around trying to make science centers look like hospitals anymore. I want the budget to go out to California and have these guys give me a set.
Once you have something like that, then you're going to be chasing that if there's ever a hospital set again. That's the problem, right?
I don't think I'd ever go back and try to do shit that I tried to do 20 years ago on Swamp Zombies and stuff like that. But that's where you learn and grow and get better at things. It's just... It really made a difference in terms of something like Pact of Vengeance because I don't hear one person complain about, well, they tried to film that at a school or university or something. No, it's a hospital. It's a hospital set right in Hollywood.
Same with the prison in Hellcats. I mean, that's not a fake. That's not some paper mache prison. That's an actual. That was a historical.
Yeah,
right?
It was an actual jail, county jail or whatever like that. It's down near Maryland. It's technically in PA because the Film Commission in Pennsylvania kind of got it for me kind of thing. But it was a real jail and it stopped functioning as a jail in like the 70s. And then it became a museum. Obviously their big time of year down there, I think, is Halloween because they do stuff in the prison for Halloween, haunted house type stuff and all that. But working with the Film Commission was great. And in Challenge of Five Gauntlets, they got me a lumberjack museum, which the lumberjack character, who's supposed to be in Scotland or whatever, like, I mean, you can't tell. He's just in a giant sawmill. So we could film that in Pennsylvania, you know? So yeah, they got me the lumberjack museum, which was awesome. I've really been fortunate about all that stuff lately. But I think the past several films and stuff too, I've learned that I just won't cut the corners I would 20 years ago on Swamp Zombies or Curse of the Wolf or Fist of the Vampire or anything like that. And that's just me, that I thought, man, if I can't get better at my works, then I don't want to do this anymore. You know what I mean? I know you and I, Joe, have talked about this, you know, when we talk about watching, you know, our Tubi TV tournament and things we did for my Fist of the Filmmaker show, the Forgotten Movie Den show and things like that. And it's just like, man, some of these like video churning out companies that are just spitting out 10, 12, you know, directors spitting out 10, 12 movies a year and stuff like that. But then we watch them and it's like, there's nothing that gets better about any of these movies. Nothing. Yeah. Maybe one movie's slightly better than the other, but, you know, production value and acting and all these things, they're just cookie cutter, you know, direct-to-video factories and stuff like that. And that doesn't interest me. I don't want to do that. So,
well, and that's one of the things I've told you multiple times, is one of the things that I really respect about you is if you look at the filmography, you see the improvements. And I'm sure, Aaron, you've seen the same thing. You see the improvements. I mean, on the budgets you have, there's always going to be, you know, some limitation, something you can't do. But the effort to try to, okay, the next movie's not going to be the same. And even in the, you know, Blood Prism, Angel of Reckoning, Challenge of Five Gauntlets, Pact of Vengeance. What's similar in these movies, everybody? Oh, nothing, except that you're trying to make the best movie you can, which is all you should care about. But there's a nice variety. And now Demoniac, of course, is to not go back to, but it's kind of more of a Blood Prism-y like the horror.
It is.
Which, you know.
It totally is.
I hate to tell you this, though. I don't see a lot of successful horror movies with a low budget. It's not like the Italians ever did it all the time, and they're great.
Yep.
So,
I mean, a part of my job as well is to consider the budget, you know, to make sure that with a movie like this, where it's a small budget and it's a smaller concept, it's not as big and action-packed, it's going to be a lot more close-up, like literally a lot more close-ups. And so it's an opportunity for me to say, here's where, like, the stage itself, the theater, that's highly important. It matters a lot. It matters a lot to Len. That's going to be a big part of the budget. Every other part, I can figure out how technically, like on set, how to build something that is as cheap as possible. So, but still looks amazing. And that's where it's really creative for me to be able to do that, to say, okay, well, here's the literal shot. So what's actually required? Like, do we really need, say, an apartment to have everything? Or can we have a little workshop that's got like 3 rooms that work, and then we can kind of make a bedroom look like a bedroom, because you can kind of make any room look like a bedroom, things like that.
Yeah, I think that's something really important, because there's not a lot of locations in Demoniac, so they have to be really on point. And one of the major locations of the movie is obviously this main character's like apartment or studio loft kind of thing. But the thing we have to remember when we do something like that is we do a lot of 85 millimeter photography. If it's a 20 by 20 studio room, I don't have enough space to have a lot of options in terms of what stuff will look like. I have to be able to be 12 or 15 feet away from the subject I'm shooting. That subject has to be X number of feet from the background so I can blur it out. Otherwise, everything's going to be in focus, and that's not ideally what we want all the time.
You don't want flat focus? It works so well.
Right. So, you know, so that's where we're at. And we got to think of those things in terms of locations too. I mean, most of this will be shot on 35 millimeter and 85 millimeter lenses and things. But I think as we wrap up the podcast here, we'll just go around the room, man. Matt, what do you think?
I personally can't wait for Demoniac. I was very, I loved Pact of Vengeance. I thought it was a very fun film to watch, and
always room for improvement.
I mean, I've been a fan of yours for a long time, Len. So like, looking forward to seeing what you got still in the tank.
I don't really like the word fan, but viewer maybe. I don't know, something about it. Like Len has fans, and I thought I don't know, but yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that, dude. Joe, what do you think?
I'm not looking forward to it. I mean,
not at all.
Your output has just constantly bored me, and I don't know why I even bother. No, I mean, look, not to use the word fan, but you and I have done shows now for a while.
Yeah.
And
Wouldn't
I
miss it.
think
Love every minute of it.
we have the same kind of approach to that, which is if I feel like somebody's making an effort, I'll let any flaws or any stuff, because a lot of times it is budgetary. And that's just a reality that a lot of people don't think about, is budgetary things can limit a lot of things. But if there's a sincere effort, sorry, Michael Bay. I'm so sick of Michael Bay just blowing shit up with $50 million every year. Just blow some
50.
cars up, or whatever.
200.
CGI cars, throw them in the air, fire. Great. That's making a movie, I guess. Or somebody who has a 100th of that tries something and, okay, yeah, I can see the boom mic. Am I really going to get that wound up? No. I want to see the effort. So I'm sure it will be, as every movie you've made in the last however many, 6, 7, your attempt to make the best version of the movie that's in your head. As long as it's that, I don't have any doubts. I'm sure I'll enjoy it. And that's all I really can ask, honestly.
Because we know power perceived is power achieved.
That's right.
Aaron, final thoughts.
Well, this movie is pretty much the most thrilling thing I've done in a long time. I'm super excited about it. We watched Hellcat's Revenge 2 together, and it was awesome. I was so impressed with that one. I was so impressed with Pact of Vengeance. And anybody who's doing the work that they want to do, who's actually producing the content, making it happen, putting it out into the world, and doing that consistently all the time, it's so impressive, and I can't wait to be a part of it.
Len, final thoughts on your own film?
For me, I just want to ride choppers and get tattoos and stuff like that. But no, I'm ready to get back at it. I think this is the kind of thing, when I did Blood Prism, I had come off Hellcat's Revenge, the first one. And that was a good shoot and stuff like that too. But there was a lot of last minute scrambling around and stuff like that in the first picture we did for it. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to downscale, but up the quality and things. And I'm proud of the transition we did from like Hellcat's Revenge 1 to Blood Prism. And I think this will be similar, although I think I'm better at what I do now than I was 7 or 8 years ago. And I have the opportunity to go out and prove that. And that's just what I'm about to do. To quote the late Roddy Piper, just when people think they know the answers of me, I like to change the questions.
God, we just lost the Iron Sheik too.
We did.
What a bummer.
Yeah. Fuck Hulk Hogan.
Okay, so we are back again in the Las Vegas Podcaster Studio. And what we're going to be talking about is a recent event. Now, anybody who's listened to my show, which is probably next to nobody that's watching this, but if you've listened to my show for any amount of time, you've probably heard me complain about a company called Google and a product or division of theirs called YouTube, because it sucks. And Len has become one of the recent crop of people, because it's been happening a lot in a lot of places, who's had a channel demonetized, deleted, half the content missing,
terminated,
just gone with no real. They didn't give you any explanation, right? Nothing up front. No. Did they give you a warning even before it happened, or just nuked it?
They pretty much just nuked it. What it was is I woke up, I think on a Sunday morning, whatever it was, 3 weeks ago now, and I had an email to my Hotmail account from YouTube just saying my channel was terminated because of sexual content on it, which I had in unlisted videos that I would put up in my films for like Patreons and so on and so forth. No sweat there, as I usually have them doubled up, meaning if you're going onto my Patreon for movies and stuff, they're all on Vimeo now, so you can download them on Vimeo and stuff, but they're not on YouTube, obviously, at all, because I've been terminated, as they said. But no, there was no warning. They said I could debate it, or whatever word you want to use there. Debate it by sending us an email if we did this incorrectly, or you want to state your spiel or whatever. So I said, okay, fine. So I emailed them. I said, put your URL of your channel on there and stuff. So I do that. And they said, well, we can't help you at all because the URL you gave us doesn't exist. I'm like, well, of course it doesn't exist. You terminated it. And come on, you know what I'm saying? But some of their stuff was pretty weird that they told me about. It was, we don't put up videos that have sexual stuff for sexual gratification or something like that. And I'm like, what does this mean? I have like unlisted movies up there that are, rated R, but I mean, they're not anything worse than that. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I was given no notice about anything. When I debated it, they didn't really let me debated it all, and it's gone. So, and really, all I had on my YouTube channel was my uploads for like Fist of the Filmmaker podcast, where I'll talk about my experiences in indie, micro budget indie film over the last, almost 20 years now, right? I'd have those up there, and there's nothing in those. It's me talking, you know what I mean? Or sometimes I'll put up some pictures of movies or stills from movies I've done and things. Same thing. I had a Forgotten Movie Den. I get emails to this day all the time, whether it's on Twitter or Patreon or wherever, just saying, Len, what are some of your favorite movies? I'm like, wow, that's an extensive question, or what are some of your favorite Shaw Brothers movies? I'm like, wow. So yeah, I made the Movie Den where I highlight a bunch of strange movies probably no one's ever heard of for the most part, and I talk about them. And there's nothing in those. It's me talking. Maybe a couple pictures of this is what the VHS box of this movie looks like if you want to try to go rent this on, or find it kind of thing, the art of the movie or something like that. And that's all that was on those. Fist of the Filmmaker there, I talk about the experiences. Forgotten Movie Den we mentioned is just talking about movies. My films were unlisted, so a child cannot just wander on and find them. I wouldn't want that either. I don't want my kids watching my stuff, but, I don't understand it. I mean, we know Google's the worst thing that's ever happened to YouTube. I think everybody knows that. Even the person that still uses both services or whatever, they can all agree to that. But I think it's interesting from a fan perspective now, and I hate the word fan, viewer, supporter, whatever. But I have a few here with me today, and Joe, Matt, and Aaron, that have seen my channel or seen Patreon or seen my YouTube channel. What do you guys think about the whole thing? Have you seen it with other artists that you like?
Oh, I've seen it extensively. As I said, I've complained about YouTube probably for going on 6, 7, 8 years now, because even outside of this, YouTube's algorithm is completely unknowable and arbitrary and nonsensical. Google in general has no support structure. You can't get a hold of any person. There was somebody who's had a video, I remember they said, that was delisted, and they appealed it, and they got a response back in 15 minutes on a 20+ minute video saying, yeah, we've watched the whole thing and we're still going to hold it up. So somebody managed to watch it. So they either had it on double speed, which if you're looking at an appeal, that is not a proper appeal process. I'm sorry. You have to watch the video. So yeah, it's a nightmare. I've been no fan of YouTube for a long time. So yes, it's been, and in the last 3 to 6 months, it's been happening a lot more. And it's been happening like you, with almost no warning or no warning, and with no real good explanation, because I don't believe a person is responding. These are autocorrect or auto responses that they just kind of go, oh, what was it for? Okay, that's it. Yeah, and just do it. So there's no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah, after it had happened, Jay Bauman from Red Letter Media had contacted me saying, hey, Len, we heard about this. This sucks. We're experiencing some similar things, but not as extreme as what you're experiencing. And I know some of their older videos, if they played a Beatles song in it or whatever, they get taken down. I think they tried to do that in an episode I was involved with. They played a Beatles song over something funny that, in one of their best of the worst episodes, and immediately that got the nix. Yeah, he said they were experiencing the same thing. Jay said the same thing you did, where it's impossible to get a hold of it, like a live person to talk to.
And that's a channel that has way more clout than most people. They have, I don't know how many million probably, but millions, way more of a name than most people. Most people are going to get nothing if they get anything at all. Nothing.
You guys, Matt, Aaron, what do you think on this?
So YouTube basically has the same policy as Google, where they don't look at the content creators as their customers. They look at the viewers
That's a good point.
And the users as their customers. So they're well versed in screwing over the people who actually use their service, and they don't care if you're a business or like whatever, they will screw you over. And the biggest issue to me isn't necessarily that like they take these types of actions, because as a private company, they're entitled to do that type of thing. It's the uneven enforcement of those actions. It's like they pick and choose who they're going to apply these ever-changing standards to.
So my question to you, when you say that, then why someone like me that has unlisted videos? Because my videos that are public, I went through their if they're swearing, you check a box. Is it made for kids? No, I check a box. But there's just swearing in it, just me or just talking.
So Google and Yahoo have, or not Yahoo, Google and YouTube have very clear anti-sexual or pornography like guidelines in their terms of service. And occasionally they'll just send out their bots to crawl their channels and see if they can like recognize any of the stuff. And if they find it, whether it's unlisted or private or whatever, they flag it. And then it's an automatic kind of like thing. And if they find enough of them, it's like an automatic deletion. And it's something that's done totally automatically. It doesn't have like a person going in there and doing that. So it's just one of those things where, you know, you weren't necessarily doing anything wrong, but the content might have violated their guidelines, because like they do have like very specific guidelines against like pornography and sexual content and even salacious content, you know, which is intentionally nebulous. Like they never tell you exactly what that means, and they keep their terms of service vague so they can basically
just cut you down then.
Yeah, so they can basically like justify like whatever it is they want to do. So, and this is something like, you know, back before YouTube became a big thing, I advertised on Google a lot, you know, for my business. And, you know, Google just makes these like strange willy-nilly changes to their rules that get enforced retroactively. And so like you could have been following the rules up to that point, and then they'll nuke you for it and completely shut down your business, your livelihood, your fan base, like whatever. So I always tell people, I'm like, never rely on any Google product or service to build your business on. Use it to supplement the real business. And unfortunately, a lot of content creators look at YouTube as the business,
right?
Because it's the easiest to monetize with ad revenue and stuff like that.
And they're dominant. That's the other problem, is they have a lot of weight.
Yeah, there's no real competition for them. Yeah, exactly.
But don't trust a free service, guys. You don't have any control if there's no monetary exchange. You have nothing. Well, you are the product.
It's really interesting to watch Tim Pool. I don't know if you guys ever watch him, but like he has a direct line to Google, and even he like, you know, kind of like plays it like very safe. And but he's like, look, like I'm not putting all my eggs in the Google basket, even though like I'm a darling with, you know, I have a direct representative at Google I can call up and deal with like issues and stuff like that. He's like, you need to be independent. You need to have your own website. You need to have like your own payment processor. You need to have your own parallel economy. Because it's just a matter of time before Google decides that you did something they didn't like, and they're going to ding you for it. And it's smart. You know, you can't put all your eggs in the YouTube basket.
Right, and there's services like Vimeo and those kinds of things. People are trying to turn me onto Rumble, I think it's called. I'm not super educated on that yet, but I mean, I'm open to other stuff. But my big thing is I was able to get my films, because I'm certain, you know, for my Patreon channel, that's what people mainly join for, right? Is you want to support my films and stuff like that. So they're all there available on Vimeo and things. And, you know, in the future, I'll just put my videos on there. But
did you lose all your podcasts?
All the podcast stuff, except... I've got tons of podcasts available on my Patreon that I put up there where I'm a guest spot on somebody else's show kind of thing. So if they're posting those, they're not deleted yet. So those posts and stuff are still on my Patreon.
Did you have local copies of them, or were they only the YouTube copies?
YouTube copies, yeah. Yeah. Like for my stuff, I have some backups and, you know, on, you know, SD cards and stuff that are there, but is every single podcast I've ever done on my own, like backed up? Probably not. But, you know, if somebody really went back and said, well, you know, Len, I heard about, you know, you and Joe from Ozone Late Night doing the special where you compare contrast Jaws 4 or Jaws the Revenge and Orca. I have that backed up. So if they really wanted that, I will repost it and stuff. Our sound and stuff has gotten way better through you know, the couple of years since then. But
one of the things that we tell our clients here at the studio is that one of the benefits of doing podcasts, not video podcasts, but like the audio only podcast, is that it's decentralized, right? So like if Apple decides to ban you, like you're still on Spotify and like a billion other like podcast aggregators. If Spotify decides to ban you, you're still on Apple or like Google Podcasts or whatever. So it's very hard to get canceled on the audio end of things.
Yeah, SoundCloud, I was using that for a bit, but then I thought most of my fans were chiming in on Patreon and stuff where it's just, you know, hey, we like the video, we like to see you kind of thing.
Yeah,
but I was
and
doing
Patreon's
SoundCloud.
a big platform for podcasters. Like some of the top earners on Patreon are just audio only podcasters. The YouTube stuff is actually a completely different game. Like you have to do things differently on YouTube in order to gain traction than you do like on the audio end of things. But YouTube is basically the only, you know, outlet. Like Rumble is kind of coming up, but they're still not at the scale and they don't have the monetization. Vimeo.
It's a Twitter scenario.
Yeah,
that there's no alternative to Twitter if you don't want to be on there. So there's Mastodon, there's Blue Sky, there's like 4 other ones. And everybody's like, well, which one's going to replace it? We don't know if there will be one.
The storage requirements and the bandwidth and all that stuff, like YouTube doesn't make a lot of money. Like I think they either break even or they operate at a small loss. But you know, I think there was something.
Oh no, they make money. I looked $6.8 billion in 2022. They made for Google.
But how much are they spending though?
I don't care.
They're
a multi-billion-dollar company. Somebody was saying. Somebody on Twitter said it. I know it's asking about. I'm like bullshit.
It's
Google
the same
is not
issue.
asking a lot.
It's the same issue Twitch has, right? Like Twitch is the largest live streaming service on the planet, but they're losing money for Amazon because of the hosting fees and the bandwidth fees and stuff like that. So, when you have a company like YouTube where hundreds of hours of content are being uploaded per minute, it's expensive. And so even though they pull in like $6 billion or whatever, maybe $1 million of that is a profit. I mean, like
that's $1 million more than you make though, right, Len?
A little bit more. Yeah. I'd be surprised if it wasn't a little more than that, but still, yeah.
My issue with it is that there is no option for somebody to even pay for possibly an exemption for the rules or some kind of way. That's why I never like this free for anything model. It's like, no, if you're not paying, you can be screwed over in a millisecond. Understand that if you're not paying.
Even if you are paying. Because
you can be, but you have more recourse there. You could say, you got to refund me.
On the Google end, when I was spending money on Google AdWords and they changed their terms of service and nuked my business, there was no recourse for that. And I was spending like $250,000 a year with that company.
I had a Patreon supporter message me on Patreon saying, I'm really pissed off about this because I pay to have YouTube Premium or something like that. Mm-hmm. So they're paying for a service and then the stuff that he likes gets deleted or terminated, whatever you want to call it.
Well, that's correct, though. The reality is there's a rule in photography that if it doesn't exist in 3 places, it doesn't exist. So you need to have a local copy, a cloud copy, and then wherever service you want to put it on or something like that. I mean, there's variability in that, but that's all my podcasts are in folders, gigs and gigs and gigs, because I'm using a hosting service. Tomorrow, they could send me an email saying, you know what? We don't like swearing. So, and that's okay for me because I have all my stuff and I can move it somewhere. But
a couple months back, YouTube implemented like some brand new terms of service things where basically they said like if you swear within the first 7 seconds or 30 seconds of your video, you were going to get claimed. Like that, we had a situation where on a live stream we played a music video. It was 10 seconds of this band called Baby Metal. It's a Korean like heavy metal, like all girl band.
I'm all about metal, dude.
Yeah. So we played 10 seconds of it on our live stream just to like kind of goof on it. And then immediately after the live stream ended, we got a channel strike for that 10 seconds.
Wow.
Like it's not a copyright strike. It was a strike against the entire channel.
Where you get 3 and then that's it?
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and it's one of those like damned if you do, damned if you don't things, because if you appeal it and you lose, they give you another strike to try to discriminate against you appealing.
Thanks for playing, but here's another strike that...
Exactly. And I know that when they made those changes, Red Letter Media started bleeping out their curse words because they were getting hit for
this is what Jay was telling me the other day when he said, it's not as extreme.
But then one of their changes basically retroactively made every single gaming channel on YouTube like in violation. And so the outcry was so big that YouTube actually had to, for once, go back and roll back these new policies that they implemented and went back to just the way it used to be. And so like in that case, there was enough of a pushback where like the creators won. But for like the most part, it's like a sniper, right?
They could adjust it.
Yeah, but it's like a sniper. If they have one person in their sights, they can take you out really easily. But if it's a whole army, it's like they got to retreat. So.
Aaron, what do you think of this? You've used YouTube to upload some of the videos and things that you've been a part of. What do you think of it all?
Well, I am somebody who watches a lot of stuff, so I am watching a lot of quite a variety of different kinds of videos on YouTube and listening to a lot of podcasts. So it's been kind of weird to see so much of that content being created by these people that I love doing the thing that I love to watch them do. Them being sort of forced to then make this kind of stuff, like where we're sitting around and we're having to complain and talk about the details of like a bureaucratic nightmare of the platform that everyone's just trying to make their actual art for. There's so many different kinds. I'm thinking of ASMR videos, which I'm a huge fan of, and so many of those will also get demonetized as a big one with them, just for misunderstandings. And then you have these people who are supposed to be talking about something interesting that I love, having to talk about the details of demonetization and how YouTube works. And that's not, it's it's a weird way it like bonds everybody. And it does kind of communicate to the rest of the world what's happening behind the scenes. But I wish it wasn't like that. I wish that people couldn't or didn't have to make content about how bad it is to make content currently. But I do think that it does kind of force a new paradigm. So it does mean that Patreon is a bigger thing. I've switched completely from Spotify to Patreon. All of the people that I like on YouTube, even though I might watch their stuff on YouTube still, I want to go over to Patreon and give them money because I don't want this kind of thing to keep happening to them. So I just hope that there's a lot more support now for that kind of thing where creators have a place to go, put their stuff up by themselves without a bunch of oversight, and get paid directly and not have to, hand over a bunch of their profits to some third-party company.
So, Matt, somebody like yourself that's pretty versed in this, let's say you could fix it. What's one thing you'd want to do?
So I think that it's important to have very clear terms of service, like guidelines that creators can follow, and not should it be a contract though? If you have your terms of service, are you allowed to adjust them a week later? Or can you say, hey, here's our terms of service. This is set in stone for 2 years or whatever it may be. What do you think? Well, I mean, one of the big problems with Google is that when they change terms of service, they retroactively apply it.
Right.
And I think that's just because that's the easiest thing to do because they update their algorithms and therefore every channel is
you
now
can make the rules as you go along then though.
But the idea...
And they do.
And they do.
They do.
I've seen it.
Well, yeah, the idea here is basically you can play by the old rules and then the minute they change the new rules, all of a sudden like you're doing something wrong, even though like you weren't doing something wrong before. But in my opinion, like transparency is always the best policy. So instead of having very like nebulous, like vague terms of service, which give them a lot of like latitude, tell creators exactly what they need to do in order to be in alignment with their policies or whatever you want to call it. That would be like the first thing that I would think would kind of like give creators some sense of like, okay, I know specifically what I can and cannot do. If I want to play the YouTube game, I have to abide by these rules. And then if they want to change things, don't just change them, give people an update, let the creators chime in on the stuff. And then once you have their feedback, incorporate it into the changes and then make the changes. Make it a long process instead of like a very abrupt process. Like just the other day, so like YouTube used to have a policy where you weren't allowed to make any content that said that the 2020 election was, fraudulent. And then just a few days ago, they came out and said, okay, we're not going to enforce that anymore. And so now you can have like the craziest conspiracy theories about the 2020 election as you want as we go into election season. So
Cool.
There's no real consistency here, and they can just change their minds over like what they feel is misinformation, disinformation, all this other stuff. But, and there are certain things like they claimed your videos for sexual content.
In the films, actually, because nothing that I posted that was available for public to watch had anything even remotely like that.
Yeah,
now,
but just the fact that it was on the channel.
Yep.
It was on the channel unlisted.
That's all
yes,
they
the
cared
YouTube
about.
video
The
had
YouTube
it
video had it.
unlisted that the public could not watch. Only people on my Patreon really, or it had an unlisted link that I sent them to a cast member or something like that, could see it. But, like you were saying, though, if they can change the rules and then apply them retroactively to videos I've already done,
Well, okay, so let's look at it this way too. YouTube doesn't care. Google doesn't care about you.
Right.
Let's start with that. They care about a small percentage of people who generate a lot of views and ad revenue for them. So that's understand that, everybody.
Yeah.
They couldn't give a shit less about you. So that's one thing. To me, if it was me who was, and Google is also as a larger company, just a completely clueless and badly managed company. So that's another thing is even the company above it has no clue what they're doing. It's not hard to see evidence of that everywhere. I would make it where there would be the free tier, the completely free Wild West tier that kids could look at and everybody else. Okay, yes, there should be strict rules. Like you said, you don't want your kids seeing it. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
I'm 110% in agreement with something
and
like
they did year or two ago put this thing in where you had to say, is this for kids or not? That didn't used to be there.
It was there until they deleted me when I was doing videos. It was there, and I clicked it every time. And all that was in it was just swear words.
And that's a great thing to make somebody have to say and then be held to what they claim is for kids or not. I think that was a great move. They should then be able to say, okay, this creator is just like a movie, right? There's rating systems so that you know what you're getting into. If you walk into a rated X film and you see a penis, I'm sorry, I don't know what you thought you were going to see in that movie, especially, if it has a title that kind of leads you to it. So sorry if that's going to ruin your YouTube channel by me saying penis now, because now I don't even know what I can say.
It's your YouTube channel.
Well, yeah. My YouTube channel is so disposable, I don't care if they nuke it. So there you go, Google, you're welcome. So they should be able to tell you that as a creator, I have adult content, understand that. And then the burden falls on, just like with television, change the channel. Instead of saying you can't put this thing on there, tell people here's what's coming. Change.
YouTube already has a like 18 and over like button where you say like this channel.
YouTube
channel
does
for video. Yeah.
So why are they canceling people like me then?
Because of the sexual content stuff.
Then it's not really 18 and over.
Then you're restricting. Then you're censoring what rated R should be by the guidelines of the American Picture Association.
Well, the AI that YouTube institutes can't tell the difference between intent. So they can't tell oh, this isn't porn. This is just nudity in a movie. They're able to recognize boobs.
But that is a very faulty system then.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah.
But it's also it's not as if there isn't a solution for that either. And this is where I don't have any
I love
room
the
for
rating
excuses.
system idea.
Well, that and what you
makes
could
a
do
lot of
is
sense.
If you're uploading something and the system sees sexual content, and I agree, it's not smart enough. People think they see AI everywhere now. I think it's smart. I'm sorry, it's stupid. It's not what you think it is. This is not Skynet. So it just doesn't match. You get notified and it says, we found this. Please tell us what this is. And you write, oh, it's a sex scene between two consenting, or whatever, whatever variation on that. Now you've supplied that. Their responsibility is now to say to you, you said this was something that is not, a rape scene, let's say somebody uploads a real rape scene.
But the amount of personnel, like actual people that it would take to do something like that, it's just easier for them to just delete the channel.
You're right. But
and it's cheaper as well.
I don't have any excuse meter for these companies. They make too much money. I don't want to hear this stuff. I don't want to hear that it's too hard. Eat shit. It's not too hard. You have billions of dollars. I don't care where it's coming from. You're making it. You can hire a team of engineers. I wouldn't give this excuse to Apple, Google, Microsoft, any of these people, where they can hire teams. Listen, they can hire engineers to crank out a phone that nobody wants or a headset that's going to barely work for $3,500. That's Apple, not Google. I know the difference, but I don't want to hear it. They make a ton of money on people that then they can, like Len, can just wipe out. Luckily, Len doesn't make the majority of his money from YouTube. Or
I didn't make any. I couldn't get monetized by YouTube either. So they're deleting someone that's not monetized.
Oh, they couldn't. You couldn't get monetized?
Nope. I checked all the boxes, crushed all the boxes, hit them easily, except watch hours, because most of my videos are 20 minutes. You know what I mean? In my films, I don't know if unlisted doesn't count in terms of those hours or how they were doing it, but I could not get the watch hours, and it seemed like people were watching my stuff, but yet my watch hours weren't moving. And I'm not saying conspiracy theory there, but, it's whatever, dude. But I like, Joe, I like the idea of a rating system, but then who upholds it? You know what I mean? If it's AI, they're going to see everything nudity as a potential strike. That's
where you would have somebody check it. Like I said, I'm sorry. I don't have room to excuse a company that makes so much money.
Well, I mean, like Google, they have account info. They know your birthday and stuff like that. So it's pretty easy to put age restrictions on certain things. Right. In fact, if YouTube wanted to shadow ban a video, they would just age restrict it, and that would throttle its reach, and very few people would see it. But we're talking about private unlisted videos, right? So they're available for YouTube if you have a direct link, but you can't search for them.
Correct.
It's very hard to find them.
You'd never find Blood Prism on there. You'd never find Swamp Zombies 2 or whatever like that. But yeah.
But there's another side. There's no support structure. And again, you could say, oh, it's tough, and they're gonna but they have no problem easily raking in lots of ad revenue on people where you have no recourse. Nobody seems to care about that so much.
But they think of the ad revenue they're getting off of top Patreons that are using YouTube.
Right.
I mean, we're talking massive Patreon campaigns that are making thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of dollars a month.
The problem is that there's always going to be more creators. And YouTube really cares more about the viewer than the creator, because it's the viewer's eyeballs that the advertisers are paying for. So as long as they enhance the viewer experience, they look at it like they're winning. So whoever gives them money, that's not their real customer, even though you'd think that the advertiser or the content creator, whatever, would be the customer. They look at the people like Aaron who watch, YouTube videos as their customer. And so everything they do is customer focused, but not client focused. And so like if you're a creator and you're trying to build a business on YouTube, they could give two craps about you. Right? Like they're more interested in protecting the people that are, using the service, and also pleasing the politicians who would shut them down should they, go against them. So
yeah, and I think I pay for YouTube Premium so I can, use the little bonuses that you get from that and not see ads, and just kind of be satisfied that I'm going to have a better experience. But it does feel like,
well, they're taking away those bonuses.
Yeah, exactly. So. That I am not getting what I want out of the service when half the content that I really like gets deplatformed or demonetized or whatever it is.
I think this is a good point for final thoughts, is what you're saying right here, Aaron. So just, continue your final thoughts on this whole thing.
Good question. I mean, I feel like I don't know where we're going to go. I'm surprised YouTube has been the leader for so long that there really doesn't, because it's obvious that it's their size, that it really is the size of the amount of videos getting uploaded is unbelievable. It's astronomical.
Like Matt was saying, it's hundreds of thousands a minute or whatever.
There really is no way to have people overseeing any of it, just like it was for Facebook. I mean, Facebook had the same problem where so many images were getting uploaded and they had these little AIs that were trying to get in there. And then you hear these horror stories of the people who actually do have to visually look at images that are horrible, terrible things that no human should ever actually have to see or witness, driving people crazy. It's pretty awful to imagine that a human might have to subject themselves to certain kinds of images that get uploaded to the internet. That's just an inherent problem of the internet and of what it means to have so many people involved in it. But we've got to figure it out. It's been a long time. We've got to have at least just, decentralize all of this stuff, have many, many different options so that we can have more effective oversight. Because, I think we're talking from a perspective of people who are fairly innocent and are just kind of the victims of a system that kind of does need to exist at the same time. I want to make sure that we're not shoving the country into fascism and all kinds of terrible things that can happen from people who really do want to be destructive. So the need for it is there. It's just that we need a lot more, I think, probably oversight from someone else, government somewhere, to help make all of this stuff possible.
Long before AI was around to do the damage it does to stuff like on YouTube and creators and things like that. I don't know if you guys remember this, but back in the 80s, there was something called the PMRC, which was essentially censorship for most that was hit was heavy metal music and stuff like that. You got your cassette release, your tape came out, and your cassette tape had a stamp on it or a sticker on it saying, warning, the PMRC is striking this album, this cassette, for whatever was being said, whether it was Wasp putting out something or Metallica or whatever it was. You were getting your PMRC disapproval kind of thing. But there it is on the store shelf. People can make their own decision. They were just letting you know, we disapprove of that. Mm-hmm. And PMRC was looked at as a real bad thing, and then it disappeared. Now we look at it, the PMRC was nothing compared to just getting outright deleted. PMRC put a sticker on you. Mm-hmm. They didn't stop you from listening to it. They were warning you. Wasp will corrupt you. Blackie Lawless's lyrics, or Accept, or you name the metal band, Judas Priest, whatever, Ozzy Osbourne. But it didn't stop you from buying it. They didn't prevent you from buying the product. Right. How bad does that look now? It doesn't look as bad as what we're dealing with now. It looks like a blessing that, if you want to say, before watching Len's content, here's a warning for you. There is a boob in it. Or there is somebody getting their guts ripped out by a zombie. Or something in it. If you want a warning, which is what the Motion Picture Association, that was your warning. This is rated R. Yeah. What you're about to see is rated R, rated G, rated PG, rated PG-13, whatever it was. There's a body count of like 150 in Red Dawn in 1984. That's a PG-13 movie. So Death and Destruction massively can be PG-13, but you show a boob and it's automatically rated R.
That's a classic hypocrisy of what is objectionable. Yeah.
Matt, final thought.
Well, Len, you've kind of made your career as like an alternative filmmaker, like an independent filmmaker, someone who operated outside the Hollywood system.
Sure.
And that worked out.
And I wanted to.
Yeah, and that worked out well for you. And so in the same sense, in the social media realm, you have to look for alternatives to the big, companies like YouTube. So, building a platform on Rumble, building a platform on Minds, like the new Twitter, like stuff like that, that is more free and more accepting of free speech and things of that nature. When you're able to build these like parallel economies on each of these free speech platforms, in a way you're protecting yourself, and you're also continuing like your rebel mentality of like, I don't need to do what the establishment wants. I can do my own
power.
thing. Exactly. And so like that combined with Patreon and building your own email list and kind of nurturing your fan base on these alt platforms that support free speech, I think that's the way to go. This might have been like a good thing looking back on it, because now like you're not dependent on YouTube. You can go elsewhere. You could even build your own platform.
Now it'll take time to make it a better thing.
Yeah, exactly. So like I think that, those are my final thoughts, which is now that YouTube has kicked you off, build an alternative to YouTube for you and your fans, and you'll probably be better off for it. So,
Joe, what's the thing?
There's two parts to it. I'll try to keep this brief. I'm sorry. I know I can go on and on and on. But one side is I think there is a fundamental lack of value of creators. That's part of this, is that people just expect everything to be free and they just let it go by, and there isn't a proper appreciation of what goes into creating music, film, anything else. We have lost some of that.
Let me jump in on you right after you said that, because I want to hear your thoughts on this thing. You mentioned just a lot of videos at YouTube. You mentioned Matt mentions hundreds of hours, of stuff a minute kind of thing. Let's say there's 20 YouTube videos that have just been uploaded. 20. Let's just say 20. How many of them do you think is just junk? Like a cat video, a kid falling off his bike, or whatever it is. How many videos do you think are just trash videos out of 20? 19 out of 20?
Probably. Junk is a subjective thing, because there are people who love cat videos. That's fine. As far as, and that's okay. I don't mind. What I mind more is that algorithm has almost never served me the right stuff. Anytime it comes up with recommended, that 19 out of 20 is nothing I would ever watch. It doesn't know, even though I've watched, I don't know how many hours, hundreds of hours, doesn't know what it's doing. This again goes back to the Google and YouTube don't know what they're doing problem. Their algorithm is screwed. But yes, there is a lot of noise out there. But then this is what I was telling you earlier when we weren't recording. I said, as somebody who supports a lot of people through Patreon, which I mean, maybe not as much as people who have more money than me, but I support a lot of different creators. Those creators can take their time. I don't care. Make the stuff you want to make. I want you to make it what you want it to be. And I will wait, because I value the creation. I value the creator. That's why I'm giving you the money, so that you don't have to rely on these other things where you have to hit a timer to make it worth monetizing or any of that.
Be like
crap.
Joe, people.
But that's what it is. And there has been, some people say it started with Napster, whatever. There's always been a lack of value of creators and creative
Ooh, that's
content.
a whole other podcast right there. You want to bring in Napster.
Because there's a counter argument that exposed people to music they never would have heard.
LimeWire, all that. Yeah.
So, Matt's correct. The one thing I've said many times on my show, I do it once or twice a year, I'm sure it's beating a dead horse for a lot of people who've listened, is you need to have a backup plan. Don't rely on anything. As Matt says correctly, even what you pay for, he's right. I've hosted with the same company for my show almost the entire 18 or whatever years it's been. They've been great. I get a response. I can reach a person. Can't do that with Google. So that's another thing. Understand your support options, no matter whatever you get into. But I have all my content in a folder, ready to go, backed up to the cloud, just in case my house catches on fire, and on a drive that's in a safe. And that way, if I need to re-upload it, I can do it, because I'm not relying on anybody else. Now, you have your films, of course, but that's a really valuable thing that I don't know how many people who are way younger than us are thinking about. You rely on these things because they're convenient and they're easy and they seem like they're stable. They are until they're not. Have a plan. Have a backup plan. Know where you can move. Even for something software, I use Audacity, which is a free open source editing tool. But I know how to use, Adobe makes something that I pay for.
Audition.
That's it. I don't like it, but I know how to use it. So if Audacity decided tomorrow that they wanted to monetize everything that's ever, they start asking me all information. Nope, gone. I'll move to the other thing till it screws me. And that's you have to have a plan. Is be ready to be screwed and be ready to move to what's not screwing you today.
Yeah, and for me, people know already that are, especially on my Patreon, I think it's more important now than ever to support people that are doing things like Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee or whatever they're doing, that kind of thing. Like you said, and I think that's the important point is, you're supporting the creator because that's what you want the content from. You don't care where the content's posted. You're supporting them and what they do. And I think that's important, more important now than ever, really, especially for somebody like me that gets terminated kind of thing on YouTube. But yeah, I mean, moving forward, I'll use Vimeo, but I'll look into Rumble and stuff. So, people that are going to jump on my Patreon expecting my films and stuff, Patreon has a search box. You type in Swamp Zombies, it'll pull up. My wall still has hundreds of things posted on it on Patreon, even though, my podcast from YouTube got deleted.
You can actually upload video directly to Patreon now.
Can you?
Yeah.
Is that like a really recent thing?
Yes.
Relatively. I think it's a response to some of that.
I have tried that in the past. Again, I haven't probably tried it in 6 to 8 months here. But I have tried that in the past and it was too big a file, obviously, and things like that. So I wonder what the restrictions are there because I would love to do that. And I might just start that soon, people, on Patreon where I can just upload it right to there. Is there like a gigabyte restriction? Do you know what it is?
So I think it's up to 2 hours and HD only, so not 4K or anything like that.
Okay.
Beats nothing.
I have HD versions of Pact and things. Pact is the only one. Pact of Vengeance is the only thing I've ever done in 4K. But I have an HD version of all that kind of stuff. So
and I would imagine they'll expand that. If it's popular and there's money, they'll expand it.
Let's say, their cap is it can't be over 12 gigabytes or something like that. If that's the case, then
the only drawback is that you have to watch it on the Patreon app or on the website. And so it's a little bit inconvenient for most Patreon users, but there are no copyright restrictions or anything like that.
But there again, if somebody supports you, they're going to do that because that's where it is.
For me, some of the stuff that I like to watch on YouTube's old ninja movies or whatever, hard to find things, I plug it into my HDMI cable into my television and watch it on my television screen. But I mean, that's what I end up doing. But
go ahead. Sorry, Matt.
And as we wrap up, thanks everybody for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes or to browse through our back catalog. Follow @Ozone Nightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 140 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the show, visit our creator page at patreon.com/Ozone Nightmare. Music for Ozone Late Night is provided by Ogre. Visit ogresound.bandcamp.com to listen and purchase his fantastic selection of music.